Alright, well, so we got a bad bearing here on this Farmall Cub. It's a 1974 model.
When they switched to International Harvester.
Yeah, this is an International Harvester. We got a bad bearing here. You can see the damn shell of the bearing coming through right here. We thought it was a brake squeaking and popping stuff as we were rolling, but apparently this tractor took on a little bit of water and dried up the bearings. That side we don't know about yet. I think it's alright. So we're going to remove this, take it off, but I'll show you the part number in a little while. So after we put our PB blaster on here, we got to pull the cotter key. We had a dust cover on here. We removed it. I guess that was what, 1/2-inch bolts?
Yeah, they were 1/2 inch, 4 of them.
Alright, so we took that dust cover off. It looks like that, but not hollow. It's covers the whole deal up. Anyway, so we gotta get this wrench off of here. This bearing's kind of in our way. We'll try to get this bearing out of our way here.
See, it's destroyed.
Son of a bitch is destroyed. It's the kiss, the housing to the bearing. And you can hear our needle bearings, or our roller bearings, sorry, hitting the ground. Now, if you want to know, it's going to be a short video. I'm not going to actually show me replacing this, but I do want to show you what part number this is, because I had to hunt and found out that most of the Farmalls, this is called a
they call that the final drive, I think.
yes, this is a final drive axle or rear drive axle. Everything we find is for the front axle, the front wheels, the front wheel bearings.
On eBay, stuff like that.
Different places. So we wanted to film for the one purpose of what bearing and race does a final drive axle use in the inner bearing. Now I'm not changing the outer bearing.
But you can find those.
Yeah, but the inner bearing, it's hard to find the part number. So all right, so here's the inner bearing number. It's Timken or National. 15120, which adds up to no vehicle at all. It's a universal bearing, but it doesn't come up for any particular vehicle match. So there's no vehicle match to match this.
People at the computer said agricultural.
So it's agricultural use, but it's an automobile bearing, same thing. And then here's the race. The most common sold race in this size is 45. The last number 45, but 44 is the appropriate race for the inside of that housing. So here's your race, what they call cup, and here's your bearing.
They call that one the cone.
Cone and cup.
An old parts manual we found.
Yeah, I had to download a PDF, which is a pain in the butt to find. But here's your national bearing. And as you can see, looks like an automobile bearing. Looks like a front wheel bearing. Anyway, just wanted to point that out. Okay. Come back. Yeah, it looks like we're gonna have to get the mini maul. Make sure you have plenty of PB blaster when you work on this, or some type of penetrating oil. Everything is rusted on these tractors.
There is no size for that. Our biggest wrench does not fit that.
Our biggest wrench is what, 5
inch and 5/16. It won't fit that.
Alright. So
Crescent wrench, that's the size.
right.
Yeah, go get a mini maul.
Yeah, good.
Taps.
A few taps, we got it loose. That's pretty good. As you can see, these bearings just fell apart. I'm sure the race is nice and scarred. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to remove the wheel.
get that whole shaft out and replace all the races and bearings. Not the owl, but anyways.
Yeah, see, I didn't want to jack the tractor up yet before I took this nut off because I need this wheel on the ground to hold back against this because it's getting difficult now. It's giving me help. So we'll come back when we get this off. Now we got the tractor jacked up a little bit here. Doesn't look too good if you can see. Yeah.
That's the noise it was making. We thought those were the brakes all the time.
Hey, look, it's falling up. It's good. All right. Okay. Shit. I hope I can get this shit out.
Yeah, let's get this wheel off.
Get this bearing off of here.
It's gonna be heavy.
Alright, stop. Weight and the wheel. Let's get this shit out of the way.
All 3/4 inch.
Is that what it was?
Everything was 3/4.
Alright. Jesus. Alright. We'll get this out in a minute. Alright, so we got our new used final drive axle housing for our International. This is our old one, cracked in 3 places. Races cracked, cracked here, pretty much destroyed. There's nothing we can do with it. This one already has the races in it that are used. We didn't see any cracks in the races. We're going to inspect it a little further, but we figured out that most of these are universal, and we did a little painting, by the way, of just a little Ronald McDonald painting while we were waiting for the shit to come in. This pretty much should be a no-brainer putting back together. We're gonna have to take this bearing and reuse it, and then did we get the part number for the outer bearing for people?
I don't think so.
Okay, well,
Oh,
grab the outer bearing box up there. Alright, so this is the outer bearing part number, 26882. National, which should fit most models. This is a 1974 we're working on. This housing's probably from the 60s. I'm just taking a guess.
Because it's red still, and International stopped using the red paint in like late 60s.
Late 60s, 69 or so, they stopped using red and painted them yellow, like a school bus. So we think that we're going to get away with using an old race and a new bearing because the new bearing hasn't been tailored yet to any specific race. What you probably don't want to do is use a used bearing with a used race that aren't of the same match. So we'll remove these C-clips, inner and then outer, and then we'll see what the other side of this looks like. This gear, drive gear, looks good. Just remember that I guess it goes both ways, but it's used to being driven in this fashion, with this facing the wheel. So make note of that. So this piece faces the wheel, this side right here. So we're going to put it back in facing the wheel, outside facing the wheel. So we'll lay it flat out of the way. I'm trying to get the shaft out of the bearing here, the roller bearing, in one piece. Uh-oh.
These bearings press in, don't they?
Most of them, yeah.
I wonder if that one's pressed into that and that's why they ain't moving.
It's possible, but I'm trying not to screw up the roller bearings.
Yeah.
I don't want to,
You want to sock it?
I don't want to beat the shaft up, and I don't want to knock the roller bearings out of the housing.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did was remove the set screw right here for the brake drum, for the brake. Yeah, this is the brake drum. So I removed the screw for that, and then that's a set screw, and I sprayed penetrating oil inside set screws there. And then I removed the inner and outer snap ring, which I guess I didn't have to remove the inner, but I removed the outer, which I probably didn't have to remove either one of them, but I'm going to beat this axle backwards out because I don't think it comes out any other way. So I'm going to get a piece of 2x6 like this. It's a hard, knotty pond, so I can actually beat against it. Brace this boot. Let's see if I can get it out this way. Coming out.
Don't see it moving too much. A little bit, I think, though.
Well. Can it move?
Yeah, it's moving a little bit. There you go. Yep.
Okay. Bearing. Don't know if I like that, but it was dry. So the whole thing has to come out this way. So that means this drum has to come off. This brake drum. I don't know if I should get a pulley puller or what, or go ahead and use the housing to beat on that because I'm not actually going to use this. Let me do this very flat, very lightly and see what happens if I get it to move at all. Moving?
Don't see any movement.
Look. See the keyway
yeah,
exposing
okay.
itself? Alright. I don't really have any instructions on how to take this off, so we're just doing it on our own here. Making this video so I don't forget. Like our Democratic candidate, Joe Biden. I don't want to forget. I know. Alright, we'll come back after we get it off. You get the concept. Alright, so we were wrong. The two housings are different slightly, and they are universal, interchangeable, right and left. But what we have here is early model versus older model, later model. This is back up a little bit. This is an early model housing, which is your part number. R3 was the 3 after the R was the thing we didn't have. I think we had an R2 we were supposed to get, something in that range. But anyway, here's the later model. It's got big cut release for the brake. Okay, I'm sure if you guys were watching this in the beginning, you probably know, guys that know tractors know that we were in for a challenge here. So we got pissed off and said we're either going to order another different type of brake. We can't return this thing, the housing. So we got the grinder out and we got the Sawzall out, and we did some measurements and we cut a relief here in the housing. Well, what else are you going to do? Okay, so we cut a relief in the housing, and here's the relief we cut. Couple of bruises and scrapes later and broken wheels. We got a cut that's pretty much equal to that mouth opening. Now, the pin that holds the brake here is in the same position, it's just taller. So when you measure down, it's a 1/4 inch taller, so we cut it off 1/4 inch down, so it would match this one close enough.
We also drilled it out.
And we drilled it out first. We drilled out the depth of the hole deeper so that we could cut it off and have a pilot hole already here.
5/16.
Right. So we just want to make sure our hole is clean, and we're ready for that. So we'll clean this up with a grinder a bit, get it the opening smooth like this, and we go with it. I don't think it compromised the structure of the housing, because we still have this rib, that rib matching.
The holes match up.
Yeah, there's a little extra meat here, but not much, because we still got it here. Yeah. We got it here. And we got a shit ton back here because the gap is smaller. So the only way somebody would know is if they just really started critiquing this tractor, but we don't plan on selling it or anything. And if somebody wanted to change this housing, fine.
Bolt holes still line up.
Yeah, the bolt holes all line up. So we just modified it to fit the later model brake, which has just the shoe or the pad with the end cable attachment. The other brake pad, the early model that was supposed to fit on here, has got a stupid little rod.
It's a
one-piece rod that's riveted or welded to one end of this, and then the other end just kind of sits right here on a dial pin and gets pulled by a rod which connects to here. So we didn't want to order a $70 brake pad for something we already ordered that was wrong. So that's our modification. Go ahead and laugh, comment, whatever, but anybody that owns a Farmall knows that pretty much almost most of the implements and attachments are already modified in some kind of way. If you don't own a grinder, a welding machine or something, you're really not going to be able to do anything with these tractors in the later years when they stop selling the implements and attachments. So you pretty much got to make your own stuff. So that's kind of what we're doing here to modify this. Yeah, and if you use a grinder on something like this, make sure you use a good shield on your grinder, because some of the grinding discs tend to fly apart. Like this one.
That's number 2.
That's number 2. One of them hit the concrete here, and one of them hit my finger before it hit the concrete, which is here. It's just a little swollen, so I'm not counting on a fracture. But
hit your finger and then went towards the house.
Yeah, so just be careful with that. You know, no big deal, but it could have been a big deal. It could have been in your eye. So this just goes to show you that you can pretty much do anything you set your mind to, unless you're, of course, Joe Biden. There's no such thing as an AR-14, not yet at least. We're not in the future. And making videos like this is a good thing, because if you do catch dementia and try to run for president, you can go back and reflect on what you missed. Here we are, first and foremost, the most overused, ridiculous word ever, which is first and foremost. We're going to test the brake pin and see if the pin is lining up inside of its slot. And there it is.
There we go, it works.
So, a redundant statement, first and foremost, the most uneducated, overused word. It works. First and foremost, which mean the same fucking thing.
You need to clean this off.
Don't they mean the same thing?
They do. Foremost. Think about it. Foremost.
Foremost is first.
Foremost is the first.
Front and center.
Front and center, pretty fucking.
So first. It works, right? Or foremost, it fucking works.
That is the same thing.
Isn't that the same thing?
I thought we learned English.
Isn't that the stupidest, most bestest, worstest word ever used?
The bestest word ever used.
Alright.
Alright, let's clean this shit off.
Alright, so we're getting our brake drum prepped and ready to go on. Got our bearing in, our shaft.
Went in pretty easy.
Yeah. Remember how this goes on.
Set screw goes.
Set screw faces you when you're trying to put it on. Probably the best thing for you to do is put this thing downward and let it brace itself on the concrete or on a piece of soft cardboard so you don't scuff it up too bad. Find the keyway slot right here. Line up your keyway. Pretty self-explanatory, right? You see? Shine your light over here. The phone, this way. I need to see the keyway slot. Make sure to tap it gently your band sits about right on here, and you figure your lever has a spacer in it that spaces it about yay far apart right here. So this is your outside. So this washer, which is not a washer at all, it's just a groove cut. I mean a flange over, and this tit is notched down. That slips in this part here we cut out. I drilled out a little bit deeper, and so you want that about level with that, so it sits down on there, and your band covers the majority of your whatchamacallit. Now, there's one thing you need to watch out for. Is what just happened here. Make sure that you're hold that shaft straight for me so I can get a good. Okay. All right. I want to make sure that you're getting an accurate depth installation on this drum. Now, this is our installation depth. You see, that's a little deeper than I really want it to go. But I think I'm going to let that ride. You know what? Maybe not. Maybe I'll pull it out just a little bit. Wait. No, actually it's okay. If you look right here, say you got our little washer. It goes about to right here, adds about 1/8 an inch. Then the rest is pad rod.
Yeah, you're right.
So just tap it down a little bit more. What's this damn part called again?
The final drive axle housing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had a Joe Biden senior moment for a second there. I'll have to excuse me on that.
They excuse him for that.
Yeah, that shit happens more and more every day. And I guess that's going to eventually what qualifies people from owning an AR-14, as Joe Biden mentioned.
Well, watch out, it's coming out.
Yeah, I know, it's alright. Let me get this tight first, and then we can play with the rest from there. Yeah, you'll be disqualified from owning your AR-14, which is kind of alright because an AR-14 doesn't exist anyway.
Yeah, I know, right?
So, ain't no use in crying over something that doesn't exist. For your fully automatic military style rifle, which politicians don't want you to have, whatever the hell that means. Yeah, never mind that you need a special license that only a damn doctor can afford. Then you have to grant them access to your home and all that shit. At any time, they can come and see the weapon. Who would want to take that into their home? Pay more than $1,000 to have that done. For class whatever, 2, what is it called? Class 7?
I think it's 7.
Class 7 to own full out?
Something like that.
I think that's to sell. To own, I don't know what it's called.
Yeah. I think our next process we should probably do is get this big gear on.
Should we do that? Did we clean out these races?
Yeah, I just wiped them.
Or is that races? So I used the term races. Let's see.
What else are you gonna call them?
I don't know, but imagine how people feel at the auto parts store when they order a master cylinder and a slave cylinder. And guess what? The master cylinder on a standard automobile controls the slave cylinder. So that is racist.
Yet they still call it that.
But they still call it a master cylinder, and they still call it a slave cylinder. And the slave cylinder takes the hydraulic command from the master cylinder. Go figure. I mean, can you get any more racist than that? I mean, you're pulling down different things that erase history. You might as well get rid of the slave cylinder and the master cylinder. Or have lawmakers actually done anything on their own vehicles besides sit their lazy asses in the back seat? Hey, don't flip that upside down.
Front was right here. Front was
Okay.
right here. This is the front.
So, maybe next week?
That's the front right here, where your thumb is.
You just confused me.
Where your thumb is was the front facing up.
This was facing up?
Yeah.
Then I said that faced the wheel.
Yep.
Damn it, boy, don't do that again. Alright. Now, next step.
Our bearings.
Cool. Alright, so we're just going to go ahead and lubricate the bearings a little bit. This here's the outer bearing. Oh yeah, I got a problem with these bearings.
They got a press on.
They do have to be beat down on the axle, don't they? Because
yes.
They fit really, really tight. Shit. Alright, let me see the axle. Okay,
a spacer too.
I do know that the axle goes just like this. There is no spacer when you first put this on. So you just have this seal right here. This seal, which happens to be a little worn out on mine. And then you put the bearing that way.
That's the purpose of the grease. I think these things originally took oil.
Yeah, they probably had oil in it, but you know, I'm not gonna go hunt down every single seal for this thing because I know that.
Yeah, socket.
Yeah, you think that's a little too small?
Yeah, maybe not.
No, let me see it.
For beating on one side and the other side.
Give it to me. Let me get this shit off my hands. You want to pause the video?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't gotten it down yet. Is it down?
I think it's been going down.
You know what? There's a sleeve that goes on here. Pick up the sleeve for me.
Alright, so we got the spacer.
Yeah, that's a spacer and sleeve. Let's use this to get the bearing down.
I think I remember what the auto parts store said for that bearing. It's for a 1967 to 1970 Toyota Land Cruiser.
Yeah, well.
Correct, and an Alfa Romeo.
You mean this outer bearing here?
Yeah, that outer bearing.
And the other bearing didn't fit shit. It was just
they called it agricultural.
Universal ag bearing. Well, that's a good tip for you. So the outer is for a 67 Alfa Romeo or something. Differential, probably a differential carrier bearing. And then the other one is a freaking what?
Yeah, the other one's for the other one's for an agricultural. But we put those numbers in, and they actually found them in the auto parts store. You just gotta get them ordered.
Yeah. Let's get something else to get this down with. Something I feel more comfortable beating on. It goes seal, which is this thing with the 4 bolts right here, 4 bolt holes, which is just cheap seal. And then bearing, of course, cone facing upward, taper facing upward. Then a sleeve, and then it goes into the housing like this. And it fits through the gear. Rotate it till you get it. Slides in. Alright, now we're in the gear. Alright. Now, we would bolt this on, but not now. Now let's place this thing face down here. On the axle. There. Now, we can go after the second bearing, which is the inner bearing here.
We bought a race for it. Should we just leave it?
I'm not beating this race out. You kidding? I discussed that in the beginning of the video.
Yeah.
Grab me that spacer there. There's a spacer. And then there's this other spacer right there. So, the one on the ground is dirty. And then that little one right there. I don't know what that... Maybe that's a washer for the nut. I don't think this is a part of the bearing. Let's see, where would this actually go? It seems like that's some kind of spacer for that. This spacer...
It's coned.
It's coned. Probably, from the look of it, and the dirt on it, probably goes this way. To accommodate that gear. Can you put the camera in there?
There's no light, but...
Okay.
On.
Okay. You can see that gear. It has like a cone on it. So here's a cone shape to match that gear.
Yeah, I see that cone now.
So that would allow that gear to be able to shift from side to side, so it won't actually bind. So you would not want to put the flat part against there. You'd want to put the beveled edge of the washer right here against the gear with the bevel. It's kind of self-explanatory, but this shit all fell to pieces when I took it apart, so I didn't actually get a chance to figure it out. I'm going to use this as a spacer for the bearing. Now, here's the fun part. I got to beat this bearing on.
Oh yeah.
Because it presses on. So, where's the other bearing?
Right here.
Alright, so here's your other national bearing, 15120. 15120. That's an ag bearing, agricultural bearing. A national brand, of course. I'm kind of running out of what you call it here, so of red grease, so we're just going to go ahead and go with the black grease. There's a difference. Who cares? This is a tractor. It doesn't go over 7 miles an hour, and it never will. So, that pack down.
Here's the end result. Painted, put back on. See the smaller side. Then the bigger side that we cut out. Braking gauges and works. And as you can see, it's not red anymore, so it's been painted. And back on. Shield and axle housing. And then some don't require this shield be put on, but this one you put the axle housing, then shield on, and bolt them both in at the same time. And it was a success.